Donald Trump's favorability rating is actually higher than it ever was the first time around. Let me ask you, a recent poll by Marquette looked at several of the things that he has done or says that he is going to do, and 63% favor federal government's recognition of only two sexes, 60% favor deporting immigrants who entered the United States illegally, 60% favor expanding oil and gas production, 59% favor declaring an emergency at the southern border. Is there anything you are seeing that Trump is doing that you are in favor of, that you think is the right thing?
Let me say, as it relates to all of those issues, we're just at the beginning.
It's only been a few weeks since Jeffries froze because of these numbers, and now mainstream liberal media is being forced to report the truth about President Trump. Democratic leaders show support for Representative Jasmine Crockett and her disparaging remarks about disabled people, and Crockett gets exposed for changing her entire political personality. Guys, things are getting very interesting, so let's talk about mainstream media first, okay? And how they're crumbling at the thought of how popular the president is right now.
It appears one of the reasons is satisfaction with aggressiveness on immigration.
Absolutely right. This is a story about balance, and the things that are going well in the public mind for him is his handling of immigration, which is still net positive, and his deportation program is still net positive and popular.
It's strange because this isn't the same story for all news outlets. In fact, because despite how much Americans favor what the White House is doing, there are those who still report differently. I mean, just take MSNBC's Rachel Maddow. Now, granted, her entire paycheck revolves around trashing Trump, so I could see why she'd cover this. Watch.
How does the American people like all of this? How does the American population feel about how things are turning out with Donald Trump being back in the White House, given that this is sort of the daily news now? New polling from Gallup just out today shows that there is no issue on which the American people like what Trump is doing. His disapproval ratings are higher than his approval ratings on everything.
This is the same Rachel Maddow that praised Joe Biden's debate performance against President Trump, the same debate that removed Biden from the race. So it's pretty safe to say that Rachel Maddow's ready and willing to push whatever propaganda it is that the left wing wanted. Surprisingly, the same can't be said for CNN at the moment. The numbers are just so much better for the president this time around that they're praising him on air, with some of them obviously cringing at the idea that Americans are actually liking what they're seeing. If you want to see what I'm talking about, keep a close eye on the girl in red. These are a few minutes of excruciating pain for liberals, so I hope you enjoy this.
I think sometimes it's important to do a little bit of reality check and take a little different spin at the numbers. I'm going to do that right here because all we talk about is how unpopular Donald Trump is. But in reality, he's basically more popular than he was at any point in term number one, and more popular than he was when he won election back in November of 2024. What are we talking about? His net favorable rating right now comes in at -4 points. Compare that to where he was when he won in November of 2024, when he was at -7 points, or March of 2017, when he was at -10 points. So when you compare Trump against himself, he's actually closer to the apex than he is to the bottom of the trough. And of course, that's so important because Donald Trump, historically speaking, has had his numbers underestimated. So I think it's very important to compare him to himself to understand he's actually more popular now than he was when he won, or certainly where he was at this point back in his first term. The bottom line is Trump is more towards the ceiling than he is towards the floor.
So when you do that, it makes my knees hurt. So when you look at this compared to sort of historically, what does it tell you about the percentage of folks that think the country itself, with him at the helm, is on the right track?
This, I think, is rather important because, again, if the polls have historically underestimated Donald Trump, what is a metric that might get at understanding at how popular he may actually be? So let's take a look at the percentage of the country who say that we're on the right track. It's actually a very high percentage when you compare it to some historical numbers. What are we talking about? According to Marist, 45% say that we're on the right track. That's the second highest that Marist has measured since 2009. How about NBC News? 44%. That's the highest since 2004. Wow. The bottom line is the percentage of Americans who say we're on the right track is through the roof. And if you were to compare it to when presidents have historically been reelected, of course, Trump is not constitutionally eligible to run for re-election, but I think it sort of puts it in perspective. 42% of the country says the country is on the right track when the incumbent party is re-elected. And also keep in mind, back when Kamala Harris lost and the Democrats were turned out of power, only about 27 to 28% of the country said the country was on the right track. The bottom line is right now, a much higher percentage of the country says we're on the right track.
To make matters worse for Democrats, the generic congressional ballot is looking better for Republicans, which means that they're probably going to win big in the midterm elections. And that brings me to someone who's being challenged for her seat come 2026. Representative Jasmine Crockett has become very popular within her own circles. The same can't be said for analysts who feel as if she's saying things solely for shock value. Now, of course, there's also the matter of how she turns violent whenever she's confronted with actual questions. This is something that Megyn Kelly talked about recently when she popped in for a quick interview with Benny Johnson. I want you to listen to how she saw the situation with Crockett physically attacking a journalist.
If she laid any hands on that reporter, it's assault, and she should be charged. And she absolutely should be sued for the value of the camera/phone. This is completely inappropriate. She's completely inappropriate. And you see it with her time and time again. I mean, I guess she didn't feel that mocking a man in a wheelchair, Texas Governor Greg Abbott, who's, a truly good man, was enough for one day. She wanted to commit a couple of crimes on her way home, back to Congress that day. This woman, I've had about enough of her. She wants to be like a member of the squad. She thinks of herself like an AOC. She talks like, she's from the hood. Meanwhile, she grew up in a nice family. She didn't talk like this 3 years ago.
Now, since I do a lot of investigative journalism myself, I decided to find out just how much has changed with Representative Crockett. And Megyn Kelly's right. She changed her entire persona to fit someone who's supposedly more relatable to her constituents.
In my mind, I'm thinking, I just got to Austin and I had to beat 5 people to get here. I don't know about this. So
y'all don't know what white privilege looks like, but I'm gonna show you a little bit of something.
It's a huge responsibility. The congressional seat is over 4 times as large as my House seat.
I'm trying to get clarification.
Look at, calm down, calm down.
No, because this is what y'all do.
And I was just starting to get into the rhythm of doing constituent services.
They send them to Texas, they send them to Florida. Every deplorable state that we can think about, they usually coming out of y'all's think tank.
There was someone that talked to me and said, in fact, a former ambassador in the Clinton administration.
Please calm down.
Don't tell me to calm down.
Calm down.
Because y'all talk noise and then
You're
can't
out of
take
control.
He said, Jasmine, what you have to realize is that if you are really going to make change, it's not going to be in the Texas House. He said, you did a great job playing defense, but you have a chance to play offense.
If someone on this committee then starts talking about somebody's bleach blonde, bad built butch body, that would not be engaging in personalities, correct?
I had no idea what you just said.
The management, so to speak, changes. It's not just always one party that has everything.
Wow. Now that we've seen how drastic her change was, the same can be said for the party. Instead of saying that they've messed up, they're doubling down. I mean, you saw how President Trump's numbers looked like, right? Even mainstream liberal media can put 2 and 2 together, but not these Democrats. Here's Hakeem Jeffries justifying the words and actions of his colleagues, namely Representative Jasmine Crockett and her call for violence.
Want to know how Democrats are handling the golden age? Just look at Crockett. She's not sorry she called Greg Abbott Governor Hot Wheels, and the rest of her party isn't sorry either.
I did see that she issued a statement clarifying her remarks, and her statement speaks for itself. Voters are angry all across the country for good reason. We are witnessing in real time an unprecedented assault by Republicans. People are upset, people are concerned, anxious, frightened, scared, and all of the above. And so you see Democratic members across the country channeling those feelings in a variety of different ways.
Hakeem's projecting. He should be focusing on what's happening within his own party, but he can't help himself.
Republicans are in free fall right now. House Republicans are fighting with Senate Republicans. Senate Republicans are fighting with House Republicans. House Republicans are fighting with each other.
Republicans are in free fall. Bed bugs have a better approval rating than Democrats.
And this is something that they can't admit to themselves. They know for a fact that President Trump is owning them on everything nowadays, which has left them to resort to petty attacks and calls for violence. And we absolutely have to talk about what's happening with Social Security since Democrats keep complaining. With the work that DOJ has done, it's expected that beneficiaries of Social Security should expect bigger checks soon. Now, I covered this in a recent live stream that you have to check out if you want to stay updated. As always, appreciate you guys hitting the like button and subscribing. We'll see you next time.